All right, now to give us more perspective on this story, we are joined on our broadcast by Mr. John Irath, who's a Senior Policy Director for the Center for Arms Control and Non-Proliferation. He's also a former member of the American delegation to NATO. Mr. Irath, thank you very much indeed, sir, for making time and speaking to us here in WION. And let me, in fact, start off by asking you this statement by the British Admiral Sir Tony Radakin, where he said that this is increasingly looking like the dawn of a third nuclear age that we're looking at, considering the rate at which China is adding to its nuclear arsenal. What's your assessment? Why does he say that this is the third nuclear age?
I'm not sure that I would call it a third nuclear age. I don't have the Admiral's gift for rhetoric in that direction. But certainly the unconstrained Chinese buildup of nuclear weapons is cause for great concern. Since the end of the Cold War, every year from 1990 to 2022, there were fewer and fewer nuclear weapons in the world. In 2022, for the first time, that changed, and there were more such weapons at the end of the year than at the beginning, and that is due to China. So that's obviously a reason to be very concerned about this. It's also that China is not transparent about what their plan is, how many nuclear weapons they're going to need, and for what purpose. Is it for deterrence, for offensive action, for something else? That leads to uncertainty, that leads to unease in everybody else's capitals, and it sets the conditions for a potential renewal of an arms race.
Interesting that you say that this is a potential renewal of the arms race. And also, do you think this is a statement that was made by Tony Radakin to try and get more funding for the British military, which has been woefully underprepared, as has been widely reported? Because another interesting statement was made by Alistair Keynes, who said that the British Army, in case of a serious, intense conflict like the one that we are witnessing in Ukraine, would not last for 6 months. Do you think this is just rhetoric to try and get more funding, or is this drawing attention to a serious problem in the lack of preparedness of the British Defence Forces?
It's really two separate issues. Certainly the British forces have suffered from underfunding for years. This has been an issue that is well known and has been debated in defence circles in the UK. But at the same time, there's the question of nuclear weapons. And the reality that China is building more should not automatically lead to a conclusion that everybody else needs to build more nuclear weapons specifically. At the current situation, the amount of such weapons in the West is sufficient to deter China and Russia and North Korea as well. But that may change. And so we saw this from Washington earlier this year. We have heard it from UK sources as well. If China continues to build up, other countries may have to follow suit, and that would create the conditions for an arms race.
Interesting. Now, my final question to Mr. Irath is this. Do you think as part of the NATO military alliance, these European nations have, to a certain extent, by being under the umbrella of the American security military alliance, that is the NATO military alliance, they have, to a certain extent, neglected building up their own defense measures in the wake of what has happened in the Ukraine war, and with the possibility that Donald Trump could, of course, try and pull the US away from NATO's active involvement in giving a security cover to the European nations?
The lack of spending on defense is a problem that has been well known in NATO for some time. NATO countries committed in 2014 to a goal 2% of GDP defense spending. They were very slow to reach that goal, but things are getting better. Now I think it's 19 or 20 of the NATO allies are above 2%, and certainly Russian aggression has been a catalyst for this. So things are moving in that direction, but they're not there yet. And I think with the return of Donald Trump to the White House, there will be additional pressure for the remaining countries of the alliance to meet that target goal of 2%.
All right, interesting. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. John Irath, for joining us and getting us that perspective there.
You're very welcome.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.